Hello and welcome to today's video. I am Katiwe, High Priestess, and we're going to talk about how to actually heal your relationship with men, with the masculine energy in your life as a divine feminine woman, as somebody who holds codes. You're a healer, you're a priestess, like you're on that path and you're going through life's mystery school. And this is a really important topic and something that I have recently moved through in such a deep, profound way. And I know that now God is really wanting me to share this with people because there's so many women who are just on the precipice of this. And I just want to get into it. So if you are, new here, hit that subscribe button because there's so many coded videos to come your way, especially to support you, Divine Feminine, on this journey, on this sacred walk that you are taking that is not for the faint of heart. So subscribe, like, share this with people that you know would also resonate with this. Um, but welcome. So let's get into it. So, what I want to say is when you are working on healing your relationship with the masculine, like what does that really even look like in a tangible way, right? So, let's start off with why you want to do that. There are a million reasons why you would want to heal this relationship with men, with masculine energy. And this probably, even as a concept, is triggering for people, for women to even step into because of how much damage the patriarchy has done, right? Not just to women, but to men also. And so to even desire to want to heal your connection and your relationship with men, with your own inner masculine energy, that's a big step. So I want to, commend you and applaud you for even being here because that means that you have done enough shadow work and clearing trauma from your own life with men ancestrally, right, at the collective level to go, you know what, this is something that I know and realize that I require, right? Because it's very easy to stay stuck in the man-hating phase of the healing journey as a divine feminine, right? Like that sacred rage. And don't get me wrong, that step is very, very important, right? It's very important to honor your rage. It's very important to look, obviously, in a way that isn't going to bring harm to yourself or others, right? But it's very important to look at all the ways that you have been your boundaries have been violated, right? At whatever level that is, whether it's little ways or big T trauma ways, ancestrally, right? So this is not a video saying to skip that step, right? That step is very important. So if you are still very much in the like man hating era, that actually is part of this, right? Like to actually deeply heal your relationship to men, the masculine, your own inner masculine energy, you need to go through the man hating phase. So let me know in the comments if you are in that phase, moving through that, you've been in that. I certainly did myself, right? I went through that phase of like, oh my God, F this, like F the patriarchy. All these things have happened, to my friends, my grandmother, my mother, me, all this suppression of the feminine, right? There's just been a war on the feminine for the last thousands of years. And so all of that is very real and valid. So please don't think that I'm not honoring that in this process. However, you do get to a certain point on the sacred rage journey where you go, you know what? I've actually honored my anger enough. I have processed this enough, and now I'm ready to reintegrate masculine energy into my life, right? So that is a very pivotal moment, and it comes naturally the more you honor and express the anger, the justified rage, all of that stuff, right? So why would you want to do this? Like, why do you want to heal your inner masculine, right? So again, every being contains, and everything, right? Every being, every creation contains masculine and energy and feminine energies. Okay. Now, just because I am in a feminine presenting body, right? I am a woman. I'm very proud to be a woman, which is not has not always been how I felt. But again, on this journey, I've really stepped into womanhood and loving being a woman, right? Going from somebody who, again, just felt like women were so taken advantage of and underappreciated, and we are and were. But I've stepped into the mode of seeing through the illusions and distortions and the violence towards women, understanding that all exists, but then also like opening a door, opening a crack to move through beyond that layer in the physical, right? In the 3D that we see expressed, to tap into my own feminine essence and to just bathe in that, right? To step into that, to receive my femininity deeper and deeper, which has made me feel safer and more proud of that and more just anchored in, I'm glad I chose to incarnate in a female body, right? So I'm saying that all to say, I'm very happy now to be a woman. I feel safe in it. Again, as a result of doing all this work, I feel safe in it. I feel powerful in it. I would not want to trade my life with a man anymore, right? As much as we have our challenges being women in this day and age in this society, I've gotten to the point now in my power, in my womb, where I'm like, no, I love being a woman, and like this is the most powerful state to be in on this planet. I truly believe that. So even in that, even in the fact that I hold deep mother codes, right? I hold deep feminine codes. There's still an inner masculine aspect to us energetically, right? There are also masculine templates that we engage with. Okay, so there's many layers of reality that we're touching on here. So it's multidimensional, right? There's the macro, there's the micro, there's within, there's without. So I'm going to be like moving into different aspects here. If you have any comments or questions, drop them in the comments below under this video. But what I want to say about that is we have this relationship with masculine energy, right? So obviously, when we think about masculine energy, we think about like a cis man, right? Like a straight man, a straight male, right? But that isn't the only way that masculine energy expresses, right? That is obviously the primary way that's in our face, right? But in our universe, we have masculine principles. Like the sun can be considered a masculine principle, right? Father God can be considered a masculine principle. Um, the right side of our body is governed by the masculine principle, right? Time is governed by, like time as we know it in the 3D sense, the Gregorian calendar, a masculine principle. The four directions, the four cardinal directions, a masculine principle, right? So we experience masculine energy in a variety of ways. There's also, like the energy of like getting things done, right? Getting things done in the 3D realms, like taking all this action and like moving forward, like forward momentum, like just gathering resources, putting it together, anchoring into the 3D, like building, creating. Like I'm talking about these very like obvious masculine tropes, right? Like there's room for nuance in all of this, but just for the sake of this conversation, I'm talking about just the obvious ways that we can experience and receive masculine energy, right? So it's it's in our life, right? It's within us, it's around us, it's expressing in a variety of ways. Now, due to patriarchal conditioning, which again does not serve men either, um, we can have a relationship with masculine energy that is quite toxic, right? Because one, that's how the patriarchy likes it. That's how they condition all of us. So just as a result of being born into that system, you begin to have these distortions when it comes to men and the masculine energy and all the ways that it expresses, right? Even your connection to God, Father God, like the father face of God. There's also a mother face of God, a mother side, right? But I'm talking specifically right now, God, the Father God. And a lot of the times in religion and spirituality, when people reference God, they subconsciously or consciously feel it as a masculine energy, right? So if you have distortions with male energy in your life, just like men, like brothers, husbands, fathers, uncles, right? Friends, bosses. This also can mirror itself in your spiritual life with your relationship to the father aspect of God, the male aspect of God, and vice versa, right? So everything ripples into everything. And this is why this conversation matters, right? This is why this matters because Healing your relationship with the masculine as a woman, especially as a divine feminine woman, especially ripples across every area of your life. So it really is supportive to do this work when you're ready for it. And so I've just moved through this portal myself in a big way, and it's always expanding. Like I'm never done. Like it's not done, but I'm in a really good place now with how I relate to masculine energy, and it only gets more and more potent and powerful. And so I guess I'm just going to talk right now in this video about what that looks like, right? Because again, your relationship with men will change. If you're experiencing men who aren't showing up for you, they're toxic, maybe they're abusive, they take advantage of you, they don't respect you, right? Healing a relationship with men will elevate your dating game, will elevate your relationships, will elevate all of that. Like that's an automatic, right? Like I also stated, your relationship with God, like the father aspects of God. And when I was in Egypt, it's like Ra, right? Ra is like the sun god, the sun principle. So that was coming through strongly for me when I was in Egypt on the spiritual pilgrimage and retreat. It's like these relationships with these masculine templates, whether it's a god, whether it's a celestial body, whether it's like Archangel Michael or Metatron or some other sort of masculine angel or energy that you feel really connected to, a guide. There are all kinds of ways that masculine energy presents itself that you can relate to it and also heal your relationship with men and the masculine through. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about with this. There's also a money aspect to all of this, right? The more that you can heal your relationship with men and the masculine energy, money is easier, right? Because you're able to receive. Because again, what does male energy do? It penetrates, right? It penetrates. So you are receiving, you're the receiver, like we can talk about, the biblical ways of male and female connection in the physical, if you get my drift, right? Women receive typically. This is like the main way, right? We receive. So if you have a distorted relationship with masculine energy, you have a hard time receiving from them because you don't trust them. You don't feel safe with them. You unconsciously and consciously are pushing away receiving the masculine, right? So this also shows up with money, with opportunities, with things that are supposed to come into your fields. Because if you don't want to receive, that is inherently like you receiving is you receiving, like you being receptive, right? Like like you being a starfish, on the bed of life, and you're like, give to me, right? I need to receive. So this is all part of it. So money is in this. Opportunity is mixed into this because as a defined feminine woman, you stand in your power when you are magnetizing things to you. Like when you are still, when you sit on your throne, good posture, right? When you sit on your throne and allow life to come to you, right? Like the king and the queen, they sit on the throne. The queen sits on her throne. The empress sits on her throne. And people from the kingdom, and the empire, from the queendom, they come to her with their requests, with their offerings, with their news, their tidings, their whatever. Like she sits there, they come to her, right? Like this is the, again, I'm speaking very like black and white here, right? But this is where our power lies. So if you have an issue with masculine energy, you have an issue with receiving, period. This is why it's important to do this work, even if right now you're like, I don't desire a relationship with a man, I don't want to get married, I don't want to, whatever. Like, that's all well and good. This is not about, traditional like gender roles in that sense. This is just about coming to terms with that energy within yourself so that in your 3D reality, whatever is for your highest and best good to receive, whatever actions you want to take or are going to be taken on your behalf for you can be done. Right? And if you are somebody who knows that you're on a divine union path, or you want a life partner, you want to be married to a man, that's going to serve all of that in an incredible way. Right. And so I have been on such a journey with this, and I want to just share a little bit about how to do this. Like, what did it actually kind of look like? And there have been many layers for me healing the inner and outer masculine. And the more that I healed the inner, the more the outer has changed, right? One of those changes is moving out of a relationship with a masculine who was not in his higher embodied masculine traits, right? So again, when you do this work, if you are currently in a connection with a man that is not for your highest and best good, that does not meet you in your feminine power, right? Who is not a match to your highest divine timeline, that relationship will dissolve, or you'll move out of it, or he'll move out of your way, whatever the way is, right? Or if you're dating, you'll begin to find yourself attracting more and more men who are just in that embodied, grounded, like provider, protector of women, children, the earth energy, right? Men who actually love women, men who actually care about women in a genuine way, not just to like, have access to your body or your emotional labor or whatever it is, but to truly just show up for women because that's what they do. So this changes every level of your connection, even just friends. Like I have, since doing this work, I have attracted into my life like some male clients who are just such amazing men, just people just in my field who just come out of the woodwork to like help me with something, help me with my car, or warn me about something. Like just men in general just start to show up for you in a different way because they can feel it. Like, again, the magnetism that you sit in as the divine feminine who is activated, who is healing her inner masculine, you begin to attract that into your fields through all the ways, all the men, all the ways, right? It's like the messages get sent to them. And I remember learning from someone on YouTube, not YouTube, TikTok, Magic Megan Michelle. Hello, girl. She was talking about this a few months back when I was going through this initiation about how activated divine masculine men will telepathically pick up on your requests, right? So this is what I mean. Like they begin to serve you and not in a weird like power dynamic men like we're gonna do to men what they did to us in the patriarchy. Like no, this is just truly like aligned energies coming together to help each other, right? We help men by holding the spiritual space and the energy and the frequencies as portals to life, right? And they support us by bringing us things, by supporting us in the 3D most of the time, right? So this is what I mean. Like it's a very beautiful dynamic, not an extractive one, just to be clear. But she would began talking about how they'll like read your mind and like they'll tune into you, right? And I began to experience this myself a few months later. Like I'd had a male client and friend who would just like when I needed a male like shoulder to cry out metaphorically, like he would reach out and be like, I felt you. What do you need? How can I help? What's going on? Like literally, right? So these kinds of things begin to happen when you activate this, when you shift the template. So, couple of things. I began to really explore my relationship with my own father in my childhood, right? That was a thing I had to heal. And it's still ongoing, of course. There's still some layers. Some more layers came up this week for me on that. But I did a lot of inner child healing in regards to that relationship. Okay. Ancestrally, right? You carry so much pain, so much trauma from the women in your family who've experienced pain at the hands of men, right? Especially if you are a code holder, a medicine woman, a priestess, a healer, you likely are somebody who is also here to change that in your bloodline, right? So it's like you get all of those tasks sent down to you, right? Like it or not, it's like you have the capacity. So it's kind of like all of the ancestral stuff gets sent your way to deal with. So I had to go through a lot of those initiations as well, a lot of ancestral work. I also did a lot of timeline work as far as like traveling through my different incarnations backwards and forwards across time and space to retrieve codes around the masculine. And there was a really big one that I experienced in England, right? So there's past life work involved in this as well, especially if, again, if you are a divine feminine woman, if you are like really here as a matriarch of the new earth, if you're walking like the rose path, the blue lotus path, like all of that, you're going to have deeper layers to deal with, right? And of course, if you had trauma with men in this lifetime, like with your relationships with just whatever, however it has happened, like that also has to be dealt with, right? So there's a bunch of stuff right there. There's a bunch of different kinds of healing work in and of itself. And then there's actually relating with men or the masculine energy, right? To begin to trigger you, to bring up where you brace yourself, where you fight, where you distrust male energy. Now, just to be clear, this does not mean that you just submit to men blindly. Like, I want to be very fucking clear. We're not just submitting to men blindly, right? This is about clearing away all of the distortion, all of the trauma, all of the lies, the untruths, right? In our system, the pain body, the feminine pain body in our system. That makes you a very clear channel for intuition, right? The less trauma you have around men, the better your intuition is in your relationship with men, the more you can clock a dangerous man, right? So again, there's a lot of fear that's going to come up around this kind of work too, because it's like, well, I don't want to just be one of those women that submits to men, or you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like talk about that on the internet too, like submitting to men, just submit to men. No, I'm not telling you to blindly submit to men. This is about clearing out the distortion, the filter that tells you that all men are bad, all men are inherently unsafe, that you shouldn't receive anything from a man. You shouldn't let them do anything for you because that's dangerous to whatever degree, right? That is not a true statement. That is not 100% of the time true statement. It can be true with a lot of men, absolutely, but not with 100% of them. And so we have to remove that so we can lock into our own intuition even more so. So when we are interacting with men, we know who's the predator, who's the narcissist, who's the warlock, and who is the divine masculine, who is activated and grounded in their true, healthy, masculine energy. Those are the men that you connect with. Those are the men that you submit to. Those are the men that you allow into your gates, right? At whatever degree, whether it's just a friendship, somebody offering you help, or whether it's a lover or whoever, right? There's so many layers to this, right? But we have to be able to differentiate and discern the dangerous men from the ones who are not. Now, yes, we live in a time where most men are dangerous, unfortunately, right? The average man is not activated in his embodied masculine. He is not typically 100% safe to be around. But again, what you will notice from men in general when you begin to do this, you will attract ones who are doing the work, who truly are deconditioning themselves from the patriarchy, from extracting from the feminine, from just taking advantage, and who actually want to be of service to women and children and this planet, right? You will attract those men and see them more in your world because your system, your filter now can actually be open to that happening. Now, also, when there are men who aren't as activated yet in their field, I'm not talking about, the monsters. I'm not talking about the abusers and whatever, and like the worst, but men who are just men living a life, right? Who are still unconsciously connected to patriarchy because they just haven't done the deep shadow work yet that like the divine masculines have, right? But obviously there's like levels to this. But the guys that are just kind of in the middle, right? They want to be good men, but maybe aren't on the path yet of like actually embodying that and asking themselves like, what does that mean? How do I deconstruct all of this and activate my divine template, right? Those kind of men kind of in the middle, you also will begin to pull the divine masculine out of them as well, right? And then when it comes to the monsters, like you'll clock them and they'll be banished from your fields, right? Now you may have to do some tests, like your soul will put you in like testing situations with men to see how well you're clocking them in this process, right? It doesn't mean that you'll never encounter somebody who isn't good ever again or who isn't in a divine masculine ever again, but you're going to be in these kind of training grounds where you're able to activate more and more of your intuition and discernment so you can decide what category a man goes in and have the appropriate boundaries with each kind of man, right? So this is all what begins to start happening as this relationship with the masculine, with God, begins to heal within and without. And again, this is a process. I have been going through this process heavily for the last year and a half. And I've been doing ancestral work, inner child work for the last 6, 7 years heavily, right? So it's all been a process and a lead up to this moment. And of course, the initiations I went through in my last relationship with, a man. So I'm pulling all of this from the personal experience of the mystery school that I walk every single day in my life, right? So this is what you can begin to expect. But one aspect of this, I was sharing about this on my Instagram stories yesterday, and I really just want to talk about it because there are so many ways on this path that my soul has put me. Like once I began to really heal and begin to clock masculine energy, discern it more, um, unhook from the shadow aspects of myself that actually felt more comfortable in the shadow masculine's presence than the divine masculine's presence, right? Because again, this is also the work that we have to do as divine feminines is go into ourselves and go, well, like, where am I a match to this? Not that you deserve, poor treatment from men at all. This is not what I'm saying. However, when we have conditioning, we can't help but be attracted to it, right? So just as a small example, growing up, my father had addiction issues. He was quite tyrannical. He just, he's just that kind of man that just feels entitled to women's energy, um, and very extractive and exploitive of like our labor, our emotions, spiritual work, money, even like any kind of way he could receive from the feminine in like a kind of a power play dynamic, he would. And this would happen with me and with the women that came into his life briefly, and then they would eventually leave because it's not sustainable to be in a relationship with somebody like that, right? So this is like all like the training ground that I was in as a kid, right? So even though I knew consciously like that's not the kind of man that I want to be with, I ended up recreating a lot of that in other relationships as time went on, right? Unconsciously. So it doesn't mean that I deserve that. I didn't deserve to have men who didn't want to see me or didn't want to support me or, were cruel in certain ways or unkind or dismissive or avoidant, right? Like all of these narcissistic warlock, right? Like I didn't deserve that. I wasn't calling it in consciously, but that's how my system was patterned from childhood, right? That was like the settings in my this is how you are with men programming. This is the kind of men that are in your life programming, right? So I had to go back in into that little program and rewrite the code. So this is what I'm saying. This is like the general process that I'm saying. It's like you have to rewrite the code to experience a different level of male energy in your life. So this is a process. This is the initiation. You're going to go through multiple rounds, but I began to be put in situations where I could, at a safe distance, feel and receive what it was like to be in a healthy masculine energy, right? And so one of them was when I was in Hawaii, in Maui, last November on retreat, on sacred retreat. And I remember being there and just feeling how different the energy of men was like in that area. And I'm just talking about a collective energy here. I'm not talking about like one person. I'm talking about like in general, like going to the grocery store, going to the pancake house, getting a little Kona mocha from the cafe, going to the beach and just being there. The average man there is very masculine in a healthy way, like in the way that men are supposed to be, right? I could feel from them how rooted they are to the earth, how grounded they are, like their lower chakras, like the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, super embodied, super grounded and connected to the earth, to the mother, right? I could just feel it in them, where they carry themselves, the confidence that that brings in a person, but especially men, to have their lower chakra, because the lower chakras are the material world, right? Are the 3D plane. It's around survival. It's around like your creativity, your sexual essence, just so many things. Your will to create in this world, your self-worth, right? These are all these are like the energetic portals to creation into 3D, right? So men in particular need to have, we all do, but men need to have those online, the bottom chakras online. And in the Western world, they typically don't. They're typically very disconnected from the earth. Their chakras are typically not as active. And this is why we're seeing like men that are very in their head, right? Like the Western men that I'm around because I'm in Canada, right? So typically the average man in Canada is very much in their head, right? They're not in the present moment. They're not in their body. They're not connected to the earth in general. They're thinking about the future or the past. They're in their mental plane, right? And it's okay to have yourself in the mental plane. We need to have that, but they kind of solely exist in the mental plane, right? And so that they're not present, they're not grounded. And this is what makes women feel safe around men. And when we know a man is present, when they're with us in the now, when they're like listening to us, right? They're here, like they're here. They're not always in their phones. They're not always thinking about work the next day. They're not always worried about this, and that. When they're here in the now and they're in the earth, like that's when women can relax. We go, ah, like in our systems, right? So I was feeling that like relaxation being just around these men, like not even interacting with them, just in their energy, because I'm somebody who can feel energy very easily, obviously. So I'm just like I'm just in Hawaii, just around all these grounded men who I can feel genuinely care for women, right? Because they're connected to the earth. The earth is feminine. The earth is the mother. So when a man is connected to the earth, he inherently, whether he knows it consciously or not, he inherently is connecting to the mother. And a man who is connected to the mother loves women, honors women, will show up in a healthier way with women in his life, whether it's his wife, his sister, his girlfriend, his cousin, the woman who serves him coffee every day. So I was feeling that. And so that's just one example of how, like, your soul, once you're on this path, your soul begins to put you in spaces where you can activate that energy for you to help rewire and repattern that coding. Because before, my coding was men are like this, which was like the toxic way. Now it's like, oh, men are actually like this. This is what an actual man is supposed to be like and feel like to be around, and how my nervous system is supposed to respond in their presence, how I'm supposed to relax, right? So that's one example of just feeling the energetic differences of what that's like, right? Another way is to work with masculine energy in the form of like beings, right? It could be ascended masters, it could be Jesus, it could be, for me, I have a really strong connection with the Grail, legends in Avalon. So, the Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur, like I have a very deep relationship with that masculine template specifically. So I work with that a lot. I'll call in Arthur, the Round Table, those knights, right, who served the highest and best good, who protected women and children and innocence, right, and the earth. So I'll call on them. Archangel Michael, right? That ley line also runs through Avalon and the earth. So I connect with that energy very, very intensely. So I'll call upon that energy to serve me. Father God as well, right? It's like invoking this energy into your life to protect you, to support you, to give to you, to show up for you, to hold you. This is how you begin to co-regulate with healthy masculine energy, even if you're not actively dating or in a relationship with a activated divine masculine man, right? Um, so that was like a really profound experience in Hawaii, working with these energies, right? It's just like so profound how it begins to shift your life. And then, of course, like as you pull in these aspects from men in your real life, you begin to see them show up more and more. Like you'll begin to be like at the coffee shop and you'll see a man like talking to his wife in such a way that it just shows you this template of like a healthy masculine energy, right? And so you begin to activate it in your fields and show yourself at every level, like your nervous system, your mind, your subconscious, your energy, like this is a real thing, right? Like this is real. I'm not just like in my head making this up, right? And it begins to override that unhealthy dynamic you've had with men through no fault of your own, just the journey that you're on. This is how you begin to do that. For an example, I've also began to like really pray and create ritual around this. So I was using frankincense even today And frankincense is like the divine masculine. Like that is frankincense, is the masculine essence when it comes to essential oils and just that tree. Like it's very holy. It's connected to divine masculine energy, to Father God, right? So when I want to feel the presence of male energy of a healthy masculine, I'll light some frankincense with intention. Some what do you call it? Some frankincense incense, or I'll have the oil going in my diffuser and just call on the energy, right? The more you call on the energy, the more you feel into it, the more it shows up for you, right? So this is a practice. This is a practice. And now that I'm not attached in a relationship anymore, I know that I'm going to be in the field, so to speak, interacting with more men at like a, personal level. But all of this has been preparing me for that, right? Like my soul didn't just like throw me into like, oh, here's like the dating pool, go in there. It's like, no, we need to actually help you first detach from what the toxic template is, have a breather to heal, right? And then recalibrate your nervous system through these experiences of travel, of experiencing, Archangel Michael, of experiencing this Arthurian energy, of experiencing just God, the Father God in your life, so that when you are able to interact with men in the 3D, when it's more visceral, your nervous system doesn't just like freak out and flare up and, go running back and hiding in a hole again, right? So this is a journey that I am on, and I'm going to be taking you along with me because it's so important right now, especially if you're on like a union path. And I know that I am. I'm on a divine union path. And so that path starts within first and foremost before it becomes a partner, in the 3D, in the flesh, in your life. Like we have to do this work first within. And this also heals and activates the collective, right? That's a whole other conversation. So let me know in the comments like how this resonates, if you have any further questions or comments. If you have anything else you want to know about what this looks like. Right now, I'm just going to be doing a lot more videos on this topic and others. So again, make sure you're subscribed because there's just so much juicy energy coming your way. And I hope that I shed some light upon how to actually begin this work. Again, there's layers and there's so much to it, but we all have to start somewhere. So may you go forth and really balance out your inner masculine and understand how that benefits your life at every single level.